Students, in the unit 2 now, we come to a very important subject matter which is about knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge, as we know in day to day language, knowledge means gyan, and wisdom to what is the equivalent of wisdom in Hindi? It means vidvata, samajhdari. There is a story which you must have read about three disciples of a great sage who, after finishing their education, they were going back to their village, and on their way they saw a skeleton of what looked like a tiger. So one of the disciples was an expert. He could rearrange the old skeleton and put flesh and bones together. So he said, let me try to do this, because this is what my guru has taught. This is a story, so take it with a pinch of salt. So he had that knowledge, and with that knowledge, he was able to put together these skeletons and put some flesh into that. And the skeleton turned into a mummy kind of a tiger, with a lifeless. The another guy said he could put circulatory system, the blood system, and every other thing into the tiger. This is what his guru had taught him. So he did that. The third disciple, he knew how to put life in something like that. So the other two told him, please put life into that so that we know that we have been able to achieve some knowledge. But the third guy had knowledge, but he was a wise guy. He had wisdom also. And he told the other two guys that, okay, I will put life into this, but then the tiger will eat one of us. So let's climb up the tree before I put life into this tiger. And there was a very long tree, and it was very difficult for a tiger to go up to the top. So these two guys said, no, because we are the ones who have assembled him. We have put life into him. Why would he kill us? But the third disciple, he went on top of the tree, and then he spoke the mantras, and lo behold, the tiger came to life. And immediately upon coming to life, the tiger needed to eat. So he killed one of the disciples. So there is a uh, there is an adage in Hindi which is called Vidvata. विद्वता से बड़ी समझ है, समझ से सीखो विद्या भाई, ना समझ पंडितों ने कैसे सिंह रचाकर जान गंवाई. That wisdom is greater than knowledge. Common sense also is greater than knowledge. So knowledge without wisdom is useless. In this section, we will read about who's a wisdom worker, who's a knowledge worker, what is preferable, knowledge or wisdom. How do companies disseminate knowledge? Knowledge कैसे फैलाती? How do companies harness the knowledge of various people? How does a company, a group become wise? What is preferable for a person who's supposed to be at the top of the organization? Should he be a knowledge worker or should he be a wisdom worker? We will discuss all of this. So I hope you will enjoy the lecture. When we refer to the term knowledge, a number of things come to our mind. Knowledge, or in Hindi we call it gyan, ilm. So a number of factors come to our mind. It could also mean fact. It is a fact that Earth revolves around the sun. This is what we know. We have knowledge of this. We have studied it in our geography class, or this has been told to us from childhood. The capital of India is New Delhi. This is also information which is given to us, isn't it? So knowledge can mean fact, knowledge can mean an information. When if somebody in the class knows how to fly a aeroplane, that means he has got the skills, he has the knowledge to fly an aeroplane. So knowledge can refer to fact, it can refer to information, it can refer to skill. which is acquired through experience or education, right or wrong? So if you know that from where does the Ganges, the holy river Ganga Ma or Ganges as we say in English, from where does it start? What is the origin of river Ganges? And what are the cities and what are the states it traverses through, it flows through? And in the end it merges into Bay of Bengal. So this you have studied in your geography lesson. This is also knowledge. Okay. So knowledge could be fact, knowledge could be information, knowledge could be skill, as I explained to you, that you know how to do leg spin bowling. It's a skill you have acquired, you have knowledge of that, right? Or maybe you don't know how to bowl a leg spin ball, you don't know how to bowl a flipper, you don't know how to bat, but you can write about it, isn't it? Because although you have not played the game yourself, you have not played it with distinction, but you have read about it, you have watched the game, you have observed the game, and you are in a position to write about a game, or you are a commentator. FJ Talyar Khan was a famous commentator. Dilip Doshi was a commentator. Jasdev Singh. So they didn't excel as players. Perhaps they never played the game, but they watched the game, they observed the game, and they acquired knowledge about the game. So, but there is another commentator, Sanjay Manjrekar. He has excelled as a player. He scored around 7-8 centuries for India, maybe five, and he scored 20 centuries in first class. And he's also a commentator. Look at Sunil Gavaskar. He has acquired practical understanding of the game. He can play the game, and he is a commentator. So fact, information, skill, it could be theoretical or it could be practical understanding of a subject is knowledge. Okay. A very small definition of knowledge is capacity to act. So we are not taking the classical definitions which you have to write in the examination. Perhaps you can write the first point when I say facts, information and skills acquired through experience or education. The theoretical or practical understanding of a subject is knowledge. Perhaps you can say that. But somebody has said it is capacity to act. Knowledge is a capacity to act. But let's look at this definition. If you don't have knowledge, you will not act. People act without knowledge, but then that is not capacity, that is a reaction. Capacity means you have all the wherewithal in which you can act favorably for yourself. Somebody said justified true belief that increases the entity's capacity for effective action. Justified true belief. You know that 3 plus 3 is 6. You have learned it in mathematics and you know 6 into 3 is 18, or you know 5 into 5 is 25. And then based upon that, you can start investing your money somewhere, or based upon that, you can become a mathematics teacher. Once you have good knowledge of accountancy, you can become an accountant in a company. So this is knowledge. In recent time, knowledge has come to be recognized as a factor of production. In the same way, you say that labor is an important factor in production. Labor is a very important factor in production. Similarly, knowledge has become a very important factor in production. But what is knowledge in terms of an organization? Let us take my class and my very, very obedient and able students of semester 3, 1, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So, if all of us are one unit, I am the teacher, you are my students, and we all decide to go in for an enterprise to form an organization, then what is knowledge for our organization? The sum total of knowledge of all of you boys and girls, and my knowledge, that becomes the knowledge of an organization. So I give you an example. When there was a very big company called American Towers. It used to be one of the biggest company in the world for telecommunication towers. Now that distinction has gone to Indus Towers of India. American Towers is also trying to come close. They have acquired Viome, and there's perhaps there would be a merger at some date. But American Towers, it had presence in many countries. It had presences in many countries. So when a group of senior people from American Towers, they left American Towers and they started another company called Eaton Towers, Eaton, Eaton Towers. And I had an opportunity to visit their head office. It's in London. So when you get down at the Paddington railway station, you walk down to, I've forgotten the name where Dolls Museum is situated. Not Dolls Museum, the famous museum. It will come to my mind. Yeah, the Wax Museum, Madame Tussauds, where Madame Tussauds is situated. It's very near that, so that's why I remember. I had gone to Eaton Tower to make a presentation, and I had gone there for a business negotiation. So when they gave me a presentation of their company, their chief technical officer, and he said we have an experience of 200 years in tower business. I was shocked and I was surprised. His name was Keith Boyd. I said, Keith, what are you talking? Your company came into existence last year. He says, Sudhir, you are wrong. All our people, you combine all the people and put all their experience. They may have gained this experience in American Towers or in X Tower or in Airtel or in Vodafone, wherever. But their experience, their wisdom, nobody can take away their knowledge. He says, we have a knowledge bank of 200 people and all of them have got 10 years of experience. So even 200 into 10 is 2000 years. Was he wrong? He was not wrong. So, but it was a spin. I said, don't put it on your website. You will get caught. They put it on their website, but they wrote, we have a composite exposure and experience. So what I'm trying to tell you is, this is how important knowledge is. And where does knowledge reside? Knowledge can reside in a book, knowledge can reside in a laptop, knowledge can reside in a website and Wikipedia, But the most potent form of knowledge, most usable form of knowledge is when it resides in your mind. And when you are confronted with a situation, you are able to use the knowledge. You are able to use the knowledge and come to any conclusion. Now let us come to the concept of knowledge worker. So actually, knowledge worker was a term which was coined by Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker, we have Peter Ferdinand Drucker series of lectures in our college. He can be called as the father of the modern management, just like Philip Kotler is often called the father of marketing management. I say Edwin Filippo to me was the landmark figure of HR management. And if you take India, many people say that if you take advertising, people say David Ogilvy was the father of modern advertising. But today it is digital world, so that knowledge also becomes you need to change and upgrade knowledge. So anyway, before I even go to knowledge worker, let me refer to the term of there was a guy called Upton Sinclair. He coined a phrase which he called as uh, white collar workers. You see, I'm wearing a white shirt, white collar workers. So blue collar workers were those workers who actually worked with their own hands, and they were generally workers, mechanics, or shop floor workers who were engaged in production. And white collared guys were those who were not directly engaged. They were researchers, they were managers, and they used to use their intelligence and their acquired knowledge to increase the production. Okay, they distinguished themselves from blue collar workers in terms of the nature of the task they performed at the workplace, because blue collar workers are performing mechanical or manual tasks which require more of physical labor, whereas these guys are performing tasks which require mental labor, intellectual capacity. And management writers such as Fritz Maclup and Peter Drucker, they coined in the early 50s the term knowledge worker. And Peter Drucker made a mention of this term in his book called The Landmarks of Tomorrow. And I think he wrote it in 1959-60. And he defined, I read from Drucker, he defined knowledge workers as high level workers. High level workers. So, so he's already given levels. So low level, medium level, high level workers. But what is a high level worker? Who applies theoretical and analytical knowledge. माइंड यू theoretical, जो किताबों में पढ़ा है, analytical, जो पढ़ा है उसको analyze, critically examine that knowledge. So Peter Drucker says knowledge workers are high level workers who apply theoretical knowledge and analytical knowledge. पर उनको knowledge कहाँ से आया? They acquired it through formal training. And what do they use it for? To develop product and service. It's a beautiful definition. It encompasses everything. So first, they are high level workers. Second, they apply their theoretical and analytical knowledge, which they have acquired through formal training. What is formal training? Formal training is like you're doing a course in BBA, you're being exposed to accountancy, to finance, to marketing. So this is a formal training. If you're doing law, you're studying LLB, this is a formal training. If you're doing MBA, you're still doing higher formal training in management. And you use all of this to develop product and services. I think he forgot to add practical training also. But perhaps it's okay. This is a comprehensive definition. And in 1960-59, Peter Drucker said that knowledge workers would be most valuable assets of a 21st century organization. Why? Because of their high level of intelligence, creativity, which will lead to higher productivity. Somebody says there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Idea. So, invariably, knowledge workers, those people who read a lot, who think a lot, who analyze a lot, who critically examine a lot, they come up with super ideas. Okay, so, and Peter Drucker said that knowledge worker, we will call them KW, knowledge worker professionals in the field of IT. They will do programming, they will do web designing, system analytics, technical writings, and so on and so forth. And this will contribute immensely to higher productivity. And he also included a lot of other things like pharmacists. Pharmacists, those who deal with medicines, those who deal with pharmacy, public accountants, engineers, architects, lawyers, physicians, scientists, financial analysts, and design thinkers. So this is what they said will be knowledge worker. This is the concept of knowledge worker. Now that I have defined knowledge for you, and I have also given you a brief about what is a knowledge worker as or the history of knowledge worker, which started with Upton Sinclair and which was further described by Peter Drucker. Let's now come to understand what is knowledge management. This section is very important in terms of also in terms of the examination, because the question is asked, what do you understand by knowledge management? What are the various characters? How do companies store knowledge? How do companies disseminate knowledge? So let's look at a classical definition. The classical one-line definition of KM or knowledge management was offered by Tom Davenport in 1994. He said knowledge management is the process, first of all, it is the process of capturing, distributing, and effectively using knowledge. Knowledge management is a process. It is the process of first you capture, then you distribute, effectively. So you capture knowledge and you distribute it effectively. This is knowledge management. Let me give you an example. We are a class, and we are trying to find out that what is the best method of getting maximum discount on a motor insurance policy. Okay, so I give this assignment to you, some of you, and I said, okay, you go to these websites, you go to these websites, you go to these websites, and so all of you go to these websites, you come up, then we all discuss in the class, and you say, okay, this is the third party policy, these are the features of third party policy, these are the policies, these are the features of this company of third party policy, these are the features of this insurance company in terms of on damage, and these are the features of this company in terms of add-on insurance. So three components, and we compare it. Okay, once we compare it, because the three groups will come, then through various websites, somebody will use policybazaar.com and what have you, and we will come compile this knowledge. We will have an Excel sheet in which we will write, this is the company, this is what we came to know from the comment section as to what is the reputation. So we give a score to reputation, and then we put the price, and then we say how old is the company in India and how many subscribers this company has got. So with this Excel sheet, and I put it on the DME Colpol post. I do a post in which I mention all this. So what we have done is, we have very beautifully, as Tom Davenport said, we have captured the knowledge and we have distributed it. Any teacher or any student who wants to know how to save money and buy a good insurance policy, he will go to Colpol and he will be able to see this, right? So this is knowledge management is a big business. It's a huge business. We will also try to understand how various companies do knowledge management. So when actually internet arrived, many companies, they realized that, just like the difference between internet and intranet. Suppose there is a network of connected computers within one company. No outside information is possible. But let us say Dr. Sudhir Bisht and company is a company in which all of you are, or let us say class semester 3 A1 is the name of the company. We are all members of this company, and we all have an intranet. So information is in the internet. We have a centralized server, and we keep all this information. Anybody who is authorized to post information in a subject domain, he posted information in this intranet, and this is captured in the server of our system. Server, central server. सबके पास terminals हैं, हमारे पास server है, उसमें ये stored है. Now with the click of the button, suppose I want to know what are the how much Swami sir is teaching Indian economics. So whether he has posted some lectures or not, I just need to access my intranet. So for example, my intranet could be DME Colpol. So I go there. So organizations realized the immense potential of intranet. When internet came, initially, because companies never wanted to give free access to internet to everyone. So they had intranet in which there was a lot of shared, pooled resource knowledge, and anybody could access it. So intranet became the starting point of fast distribution of knowledge and rapid access to knowledge. The management companies were the first to realize that knowledge sharing could become a very potent tool, and they came up, for their own employees, they came up with dashboards and knowledge locators, so that all their research workers could actually have centralized access to knowledge. And then they later on they realized, if they post this knowledge on their website, first of all, which are the companies which deal in knowledge, we normally know these companies as consulting companies. So as per Statistia.com, the 2018 revenue figures, biggest is Deloitte, then Price Waterhouse Corporation, PwC, Ernst and Young, EY you have heard, KPMG, Accenture, McKinsey and Company, BCG. BCG is Boston Consulting Group. Very happy that to announce that BCG quoted my article on petroleum industry when they gave a presentation to SR, you know. So a guy in SR actually called me. He says, "Sir, BCG is quoting your article." So I was like, okay, I have arrived, sense of satisfaction. They quoted my article from Rediff on petroleum sector. So they're collecting data wherever they could get good data. Perhaps they thought that my research on petroleum sector, I have my PhD is on petroleum sector, on service quality, customer satisfaction, and loyalty, an empirical study of National Capital Territory petrol pumps. So it's quite a thick book. Yeah. So they used my research. So all I'm trying to say is that BCG, IBM can also. So if these are pure Bannon company, Booz Allen and Hamilton, the top 10 consulting companies as per Statistia.com. This Statistia.com itself is a powerhouse of knowledge. What I'm trying to tell you is that uh, if you include IT sector consulting also, then Tata Consultancy would come at number 3 or number 4. Infosys also will come in top 10. TCS, Infosys. Somewhere down the line, you will also find HCL consulting company also there. But normally consulting, they take management consulting. They are not taking IT consulting. So management consulting companies, they were the first one to realize. McKinsey in 1987, uh, they first tried to exploit, and Ernst and Young, they set up a conference in Boston in 1993. Okay, so all these companies, they realize. For example, today morning I was trying. I have this habit of going to the websites of consulting companies. Ernst and Young. I went to the Ernst and Young site today, and BCG and a couple of other companies. So you will be surprised. I will read the articles. First was Indian smart cities COVID-19 response. अब इनको ये सब लिख के क्या फायदा? See, somebody wants to research how the Indian smart cities or Indian cities are responding to COVID-19, and if this information is available in that website of that particular consulting group, so it's a huge up plus for this consulting group. Then it was Deloitte survey, sorry, not Ernst and Young. So Deloitte state of art consumer trade research. Then in Deloitte you find advisory for career aspirants. Then fourth, very important, automation is the future of fraud risk management. So suppose there is a company which is into risk management. Okay, it wants to it wants to enter the Indian market. There is a company that wants to enter Indian market in the field of insurance, for example, and it wants to understand what is the fraud side of this business. So once they go to this website, they can get a glimpse, and if they want a detailed study, they will purchase from Deloitte, and Deloitte will perhaps give it to them for $5,000 or $10,000. Or they may ask Deloitte to, because they will say, okay, this company has done a lot of work in this sector, let us give this assignment to them. So they will come up with a comprehensive report on the fraud risk in insurance sector and how automation could help minimizing that risk. Another article I came across on Deloitte was India chooses digital over physical online purchase. So, and they have tried to say, so any company, see, this gives you a great insight into how the market, the buying pattern of Indian consumer is shifting from this thing, from one mode to other. So they are going from physical purchasing to digital. This is all knowledge management. Why is knowledge management important? Is knowledge which is acquired by observation, by data collection, by research, and by presenting them in a meaningful manner, it helps you take good, better, some of the best business decisions. I had given a brief about the about Fritz Mackel. In 1950s, he had used a lot of statistical information to examine work trends, and he had said that the in 50s he said that the share of manual workers, the blue collared workers, will decrease, and the share of knowledge workers will increase, and the pace of increase will be very rapid in terms of knowledge workers, and the pace of shrinking of manual jobs will be very little. Now you can imagine if you buy it, if you take a Toyota Innova, every part is a great example of complicated machine intelligence, and you don't need to test each and every part. You just put a kind of a sensor machine. It can scan through the engine, it can scan through the everything which is under the bonnet, and it can tell you where is the problem, where is the difficulty. It's like, that it's like a body scanner. There is a car scanner. So once you know where the problem lies, in a jiffy, so you will require a knowledge worker who will know how to use this machine, how to analyze the fault which the machine is throwing up, and then what corrective action, and what is the corrective action. जो पोर्शन उसमें खराब दिख रहा है उसको निकाल के रिप्लेस करके नया लगा दिया. So knowledge workers, it was Fritz Mackel, and according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD it's a group of economies or countries which have very high economy, very advanced level of economy. They said that they did a survey in United States and Canada, and they said around 40% of working population is knowledge worker. So इसका मतलब नहीं हाथ से काम नहीं करते हैं, हाथ से अपना कंप्यूटर भी चलाते हैं, but pure industrial worker, that era is gone. Knowledge worker. So even in typical professions, you will realize that knowledge, how knowledge is collected, how it is stored, and how it is used is playing increasingly. It's more knowledge rather than physical skill set or based upon experience. The other day I was sitting in Mr. Sibal's son, one of the colleagues who works for him. He was telling me they are trying to. Somebody came and gave a presentation on how artificial intelligence can be used in law to arrive at judgments faster, or how to build up your case faster. Automation, right? So Peter Drucker described the way automation changed and how knowledge-based position evolved from manufacturing and even in agricultural jobs. The knowledge side started playing a key role. In the word of Peter Drucker, he says the coordination and exploitation of organizational knowledge resource in order to create benefit and competitive advantages, knowledge management. इसको तो पढ़ते हैं. The coordination and exploitation of organizational knowledge resource. I told you we had formed a company in the class. तो हम एक रिसोर्स हैं, हम सारे लोग मिलके हम एक रिसोर्स हैं. हम कैसे सारे नॉलेज को पूल करते हैं, कैसे कोऑर्डिनेट करते हैं ताकि अच्छी तरह एक जगह इकट्ठा हो जाए और इस पे इसको सब एक्सेस मिले. और ये क्यों करते हैं? दिस विल क्रिएट बेनिफिट फॉर अस एंड दिस विल क्रिएट competitive advantage. This is what Drucker wrote in 1999. So, some of these definitions you have to read and reread because you will need to quote them when they ask you a question. If there's a 10-mark question on knowledge management, then you need to quote this. Wellman in 2009 said he limits the scope of knowledge management to lesson learns and techniques employed for the management of what is already known. He argues that knowledge creation is often perceived as a separate discipline. He gave it a term innovation management. Innovation management. See, so knowledge management, you call it by the name innovation management or whatever. What is coming out very clearly is that just from hard working, diligent, persistent, manual worker, things are shifting. Like in Canada and US, already 40% of the automation industry jobs have shifted to knowledge worker. So you will understand what is the knowledge worker who will employ all his intellect and skill sets gained after formal training into creating better productivity is a knowledge worker, and this is knowledge management. So we will in the next few slides I will tell you what are the characteristics of knowledge worker, क्योंकि इसमें बेटा क्वेश्चन आता है what is knowledge management, what is a knowledge worker, what are the characteristics of knowledge worker. So it is imperative that I explain to you this in all detail. Thank you very much. In this section we will try to see what are the characteristics of a knowledge worker. As I told you, this question is often asked. See, first is KW. KW means knowledge workers. So characteristics of knowledge worker. First is that knowledge worker, they possess theoretical or practical knowledge of their subject, and they need to upgrade this knowledge. Two things. They have theoretical knowledge as well as practical knowledge. Theoretical knowledge क्यों जरूरी है? Because if you are a mechanic, you will know how this motor works and how to repair this motor. If you have theoretical knowledge, you will know the underlying principles of the working, underlying laws of the physics which make a motor work. So if you can even if there is an innovation, if there is a new version, you are more likely to be able to handle that. So at a minimum, most of these knowledge workers they require a college degree or some kind of a course after the class 12th, after intermediate. But the learning process is continuous. It doesn't stop. In today's world, I was reading in a website of Dainik Jagran. What there are some offbeat courses after class 12th, and industry will require knowledge workers. There was a time when ITI was first opened. It produced a lot of technicians, welders, plumbers, electricians, motor mechanics. They would find jobs in Middle East. They were highly valued. They were knowledge workers. They were also knowledge workers. Although they were blue collared workers, yet they had specialized knowledge of their jobs, but their level was low. So Peter Drucker said high level workers. So they were low level guys. They also had some kind of a knowledge base in them. Have you heard of something called art restoration? It's an offbeat course. Highly skilled, highly skilled people are required in the field of art restoration of old art. Science of museums, museumology. It's a specialized field. After class 12th, there are courses. When I was your age at that time, people wanted to join a Bachelor of Forestry course, highly specialized course. People who did Bachelor of Forestry, they wanted to join Forest Services or some other designation in the Department of Forest of various state governments or Ministry of Environment and Forest. Spa management, interesting, huh? In Western economies, they are looking for people in spa management. Speech therapist, very highly skilled job. Gerontology. 2017, I went to US. I went to see some of the places in Arizona and the great canyons of Arizona. while I was having my coffee at one of the coffee shops, I met with a guy who was riding a very fancy motorcycle. It must have cost 9 to 10 lakhs of Indian currency. And he came and sat with me and he said, "Hi." I said, "Hi." We got talking. So he was a guy from Mexico and he was working as a caregiver and he was attached to a lieutenant general. And his salary was very high. So lieutenant general used to be old man. His caregiver was provided by the government of US, and he had specialized knowledge. He knew a lot about the medicines and how to administer injections, how to take the blood sugar level, and how to collect swab samples and what have you, take them to the lab. Highly specialized. So this gerontology, it deals with the physical well-being, the aging process, the social behavioral aspects of aged people. So these are some of the new courses where you require a lot of knowledge workers because it's a new field. And I told you and these people they will need to upgrade. For example, in the field of photons, there is something which deals with photonics, which deals with optics as well as electronics. So there will be a continuous upgradation in this course. New inventions will be there. If you are a who are the guys who deal with the pandemics? There is a special word for that. So new kind of viruses will keep coming, and these guys will have to be updated on the new virus. Earlier there was SARS, then now COVID-19. So is the COVID-19 virus is it getting mutated? So what I'm saying is for knowledge workers there is continuous constant upgradation of knowledge. This brings us to the second characteristic. Knowledge workers are continuously accessing and employing information. Continuously accessing and employing information. Because if information is there only for your mental or for your storage in your mind and for increasing your general knowledge, it does not have much value in the business world. How do you use access continuously knowledge? How do you use and employ this information? So knowledge workers must know how to identify important information from a large database. Give you an example. When I started to teach this course, there was an important element of Vedant in it. So Vedant is nothing but Indian philosophy, Indian darshan, Vedant darshan. It's the most relevant and most considered to be the most appropriate of all of all the Sanatan Dharam darshan. So I had to access this information. I had to go to the libraries, and I had to bring it out in a meaningful form and to share with you in a manner that it is interesting for you to understand and to relate to. So if I give you something in Vedic Sanskrit, you will not understand. If I give you something in Pali, you will not understand. So I have to give it to you. I have to access information. I have to give it to you in a meaningful manner. Let us take the case of a researcher. He has to use a lot of Excel worksheets because he has to tabulate data and he has to draw inference from the data. Nowadays they are using SPSS. It's a new program in place of Excel for analyzing results. So this first characteristic I told you that knowledge worker, they possess theoretical and practical knowledge and they need to upgrade. And the second I am telling you, they are continuously accessing and employing information. Continuously accessing and employing information. Knowledge workers. Number three, it's evident that knowledge workers, because then they need to also tell people about the new knowledge and how to use this knowledge for better. So they need to have good communication skill. They need to be able to speak, read and write, hold discussion with their workmates and deliver presentation when needed. So if I am a knowledge worker, if I have to take a class, if I have to deliver a lecture on SPSS, for example, or if I have to deliver a lecture on uh, e-commerce, then of course I have to know what are the physical components of e-commerce. That there could be at the consumer side, there could be a, a laptop or a mobile phone or a, and then it needs to have an internet connection, and then it needs to take you to a server, and then there needs to be a payment gateway. So I have to represent all these components in an easy manner so that you understand these components, and I have to explain to you in a meaningful form. Suppose I am I am accessing information on security of various websites. So I have to understand, and then I have to inform you in a manner so that you take it seriously, and you are able to secure your own websites, or at least engage people who will be able to secure the sites for you. So I mean to say that knowledge workers, if they want to progress, if they want to translate all this knowledge uh, into results at the workplace, they need to be good at communication. It is necessary. Fourth characteristic: it is necessary for knowledge workers to keep pace with the new developments, and there is a need motivation for continuous growth. So if a knowledge worker is not keeping up, suppose there is a doctor and he has taken a MBBS, he has taken an MBBS degree, and he is practicing in the city of Allahabad or Prayagraj, and he has been a good student, so his diagnosis is very good and he is able to prescribe medicines. But he does not keep pace, he does not access the new journals, he does not gather information about the new diseases which are coming. He does not talk to other doctors or he's not in touch with his seniors or with his old professor, who's a research professor also. So he will not be able to, suppose there is a new kind of a illness which comes. So he will be completely at sea because he will not understand what are the symptoms. So in all probability, he will, instead of giving a proper treatment, he will give a wrong treatment, and it will complicate the case. Okay. So knowledge, he has to keep pace with new development, and there is a need for motivation, continuous growth. Let us take the knowledge worker in an organization. A company is dealing with cell phones. Okay, and he has the company has a team of a full technology team. If this technology team is not incentivized, if the company is large enough, there will be a research and development department. If it is not large enough, then they need actually to upgrade and to access what is happening. There has to be a continuous motivation for them to know and learn more. For in DME, all the teachers are encouraged by the management to write research papers. Why is it? And to have it published in a good publication, and at least in a UGC recognized publication or a Scopus index publication. We also have our own publication, because if you research, you come to know the new techniques, you come to know about the new developments in your field of specialization. So it is necessary to keep pace with the new development, and there is a need to motivation, because okay, so when the management is assessing teachers, they will say, okay, how many has he published at least 2 research papers in the last year. Fifth characteristic of knowledge workers is hiring and retaining knowledge workers is a challenge. you know do you know do you know there are generation, the current generation of workers, it is called the uh, generation Z or generation Z. Before that, millennial generation. My generation is baby boomer generation. Those who were born between 1946 and 1964. वी आर बेबी बूमर्स. हमारे टाइम पे बच्चे बहुत पैदा, यूएस में, यूएस की क्लासिफिकेशन है. सो बेबी बूमर जनरेशन, because the World War II was over, and suddenly there was a spurt in growth, and people were desirous of having large families. Baby boomer generation. After that, generation X came. People who were born in 1965 to 79. Then generation Y, born between 1980 to 1984, 1994. Why is it called millennial generation? Because this generation, which was born in between 1980 to 94, this attained adulthood in this millennium. 20 साल प्लस इसी इसी शताब्दी में हुए, इनको इसलिए मिलेनियल कहते हैं. मिलेनियल्स को रिटेन करना, द लॉयल्टी ऑफ मिलेनियल्स टू ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इज लो. जो हमारी बेबी बूमर जनरेशन था, आई वर्क फॉर इंडियन कॉर्पोरेशन फॉर 11 years. I worked for Exxon Mobil for 4 years, and then it got merged with Mobil, and I thought my career had no prospects. Otherwise, I would not have left. I worked for Reliance Corporation for 2 years, and Reliance was not. I was working in petroleum division, and Reliance was not really moving at a fast pace. So I saw my career not going forward. It is not that somebody offered me a bigger salary package and I left. No, because I thought that my career was restricted now in Reliance Petroleum. So I left for overseas assignment. So generally, people who are baby boomers or people who are Generation X, they are they were not very difficult to retain. But millennial generation is very difficult to retain. Also, there is a lesson that if you have good retention power for an organization, that means you are a good company to work for. And if as a worker you manage to hold on to your job and work in one organization, your loyalty also will be rewarded. Corporations, they reward loyalty. But coming back to knowledge workers generally, especially the knowledge workers from the millennial generation, they are very difficult to retain. So companies have to look at effective retention policies for them. Employees are forced to offer higher salaries, a more appealing work environment. So you will find there is a mini gym in the organization, and there is a dating allowance. Date करने के लिए पैसा, okay, is all the way of making it more attractive. Dating allowance, it's scandalous. If you talk to me, I'll say it is scandalous that every month you get 1,000 rupees for dating allowance. So these are all the ways of companies how they want to retain young talent, the knowledge workers. Sixth characteristics of knowledge workers is that knowledge workers enjoy more opportunities, because these are the guys with unique talents. They are not ordinary employees. They are people with high skill sets. So, excuse me, like digital marketing experts who are real digital marketing experts, or those who are social media managers, top class, top notch. They have more opportunities as compared to blue collar workers. Let us take the case of a television channel, a cameraman, is a blue collar worker. But if a cameraman is also able to be the correspondent, then his value gets added. But the in a news channel, a knowledge worker who's very high in terms of his knowledge content of news, and who's very good at articulating his own views, he is more he is more cherished by the organization than compared to a ordinary cameraman, or let us say an accountant. He will not compare to an accountant, same age accountant. If somebody starts as an accountant and somebody starts as a news anchor, so news anchor will be more valued than an accountant in a organization. Just like in a chartered accountancy firm, a chartered accountant will be more valued. Okay, so knowledge workers have more opportunities. They have more opportunities. I think we will conclude this video lecture here. Then we will, in the next video lecture, we will go for sources of knowledge, and we will take wisdom. How is knowledge different than wisdom? Knowledge, if you see recently, the NDA government had started a program wherein they took lateral entry into civil services at the level of joint secretary. So they wanted young talent from the private sector to join the bureaucracy. Because one thing is, it's a it's a realization on the part of the government is that the knowledge content is changing very fast. The contours of governance is changing. It needs input from technology. It needs input from outside the bureaucracy. So they want to bring in good talent, highly talented knowledge workers. For example, in the field of health services, in the Ministry of Health, you really need experts from the outside sector to come and join there. Those who are subject matter experts. In the Ministry of Energy or in the Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy, you want experts from outside to come and contribute to the government. So government also realizes that it needs experts, highly skilled, high level workers. As Peter Drucker said, high level workers. I hope you have understood what is knowledge management, what is knowledge, and what is a knowledge worker. Thank you for going through this lecture.